Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So we're here right now to describe some basic instructions for how to run a triad on your own. And we're doing this because we realize that we may not have a chance to fully cover this in our Saturday workshop. So, um, I'll just start with one thing, and Joe, you'll think of the next thing, and we'll try to make this brief. So, first thing to consider, I think, is timing. When you schedule your the time that you want to meet for your triad. So the way I've done it is to have a regular time each week that doesn't change, and it's before the workday starts. And that, in my experience, is usually, we can all get there consistently. I think consistency is key. It's like pick a time where you're not going to have a lot of interruptions, um, and take it seriously and show up just to see what will happen when you do that every single week when you do the practice with somebody. Your relationship will build over time. The safety of your container will build over time, and that will allow for new things to happen and I think for new things to emerge. So that's a bit about timing. What else do you have, Joe?
All right. So I'm going to walk through some basics of what a typical weekly triad includes. It's important to start with some version of a grounding meditation, relying on the 3 sync meditation of attuning myself with my feeling of my body sitting where I'm sitting, of attuning with the emotions that are running through my emotional body, through my heart, and attuning with the movement of thoughts in my mind, so that I have brought all of those present and I'm aware of that which is aware of all of those things. From a nervous system regulation skill point of view, that's one of the um, foundational skills to practice when we're practicing relating in triads. So the second step is tuning in with each other. After you've tuned in with yourself, spend some time observing each other on the screen, remembering that if I see you, you are in me. And observing how I react to you on the screen is what makes you 3D and sort of pulls you off of my computer screen as a 3D person. Then choose if you want to explore a topic in your triad, or if you just want to check in about what's happening in your life and what you're learning about yourself, whatever that is. Pick an amount of time for each person to speak. Um, and if you're going to offer some brief reflection from the listeners to the speaker, how much time that will be, and budget that time out to fill up however much time you've dedicated for your triad, whether it's 60 minutes or 90 minutes or 2 hours. Budget that time so that you can all relate with each other and be there. Um, and really practice that skill of, as I am speaking, I feel my body in my seat, and I'm relating what is emerging from my feelings and my thoughts, so that I'm not telling stories. I'm talking about myself from my first person perspective. When I offer feedback, I'm also saying the same thing. I'm speaking from myself rather than telling Julie who she is. Oh, this is what's going on for you, Julie. You said this, therefore, this is what's going on for you. It's a reflection of, oh, when you said this, what arose in me? I might be curious. I have a question. without leading the witness down any paths. But I have a question. This is how it shows up in my life or something. Go ahead.
Yeah, so to give an example of how that like agenda, that structure might go, when I first started meeting with my triad, we met for an hour. And so we moved at a pretty nice clip, keeping things very like meditating for 10 minutes together, saying hello, meditating for 10 minutes, having a 10-minute share
Use a
with a
timer.
brief, yeah, use a
Sorry. Yeah.
timer
Yeah.
with a brief reflection and then moving on to the next person. What it has evolved into is an hour and a half, because that's our preference. And so in an hour and a half, the three of us get together. We might share an update of what's happening in our life, something that is story, like something that we feel like we need to share briefly. Then we'll do 10 minutes of meditation together. We'll time that. Then we'll do 10-minute shares, and we end up doing roughly 10 minutes of feedback. And that's because in our triad, I might share something about my experience, but it's also weaving into something that my triad mates are also experiencing. So they're reflecting what's happening in them as they listen to me, but they might also start to share parts of their life. So it for us, it ends up being a little bit organic in that time.
Okay. I feel like that's good information. Um,
I have one rule of thumb. Like
mm,
if something comes up where you get triggered by somebody's feedback, you get triggered by someone's share, it starts to feel like it's getting messy. Go back to the basics of I focus on myself. I take what's happening as grist for my own mill, my own work. And I take some time to inquire for that. I feel my own feelings. If you keep coming back to that place, um, in my opinion or in my experience, I think that that helps me to travel through that.
good. Yeah. For me, another way to say that is returning back to owning my feelings rather than having Julie be responsible for my feelings. She is actually on Zoom. She can't actually hurt me. um, and so if I keep that container of holding on to the idea that I'm responsible for my feelings and what Julie says has something rise up in me, reveals to me what rises up in me, not who Julie is. That is the exact practice of triad work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great. I think that covers it. What do you think, Joe?
I think that covers it.
Okay.